Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera to everyone. Xin chào. Greetings from MATRADE Ho Chi Minh City. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Meet the Expert session, part of the Knowledge Hub at MIHAS 2025. My name is Zaima Osman and I will be the moderator for this session. Knowledge Hub offers interactive and dynamic sessions of insight on sourcing, requirements, opportunities, challenges, and latest trends reshaping exports for the global halal market. Today's segments connects you with a leading expert who will share not only the current business and trade landscape in Vietnam, including recent developments and opportunity for exporters, but also how Vietnam is positioning itself as a hub for international sourcing companies, meeting their need across the Asia-Pacific region, with today's focus highlighting opportunities in the Polish market, which is Poland, for Poland. Before we begin with our expert presentations, I'd like to set the stage with a brief overview of Vietnam's current economic environment and its trade relations with Malaysia. Vietnam's foreign trade continues to grow robustly. In 2024, the country's total trade volume reached approximately US $786.29 billion, marking a strong expansion from previous years. Notably, Vietnam registered a trade surplus of around US $24.8 billion, underscoring its export-driven economy. For Malaysia bilateral trade performance with Vietnam in 2024, total trade grew by 4.4%, reaching an impressive US $18.14 billion. It's worth noting that Malaysia remains among the top investors in Vietnam, signaling deepening economic ties, where in 2024, we have more than 700 projects with a total registered capital of US $12.96 billion. Together, these figures highlight the strong momentum of Vietnam's economy and the growing strength of its trade partnership with Malaysia, providing a timely backdrop as we not only explore the Vietnam market, but also examine how businesses can leverage Vietnam's role as an international sourcing hub to reach other global markets. This sets the stage for valuable discussions on market insight, sourcing strategies, and real-world success stories within the halal trade ecosystem. First, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Hua Nguyen, Project Leader at Design Shira and Associates in Hanoi. Ms. Hua specialized in market research, business matching, and location advisory for international investors entering Vietnam. Before joining Design Shira, she worked with McKinsey & Company Vietnam on high-level provincial master planning projects and with EY Patterson on corporate strategy, market entry, and restructuring across diverse industries. Today, Ms. Hua will share on the Vietnam Strategic Ascent, a sourcing and production hub for the US and European export opportunities. Let's welcome Ms. Hua.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Madam Zaima, for the kind introductions. It's really my honor to be invited and talk about Vietnam Ascent as a sourcing and production hub for international businesses looking for the chance to export to the US and the EU market. So in the next slide, you will see the agenda that I will brief about Vietnam business environment, why Vietnam is considered a critical location as a sourcing and production hub, and last but not least, how to seize the opportunities to export to US and the EU market. Let's look at the next slides to understand the general business environment in Vietnam. Vietnam has become one of the most dynamic investment destinations in Asia thanks to a combination of political stability, open trade policy, and steady infrastructure development. So the country's biggest strength is international trade, ranked number 1, as Vietnam's strategic locations connects it seamlessly with the US, Europe, and Asian market, helping reduce freight costs and boosting trade openness. So as a result, you will see that FDI disbursement has steadily increased from around $12 billion in 2014 to nearly $25 billion in 2024. So the top investment sector in 2025 include manufacturing and processing, and this still indicates a lot of opportunity for growing businesses in Vietnam. If we can move on to the next slide, we will see that this is an update on Vietnam business environment within the first half of 2025. As we can see, despite the tariff situations, Vietnam continues to attract strong FDI inflows. Singapore is currently leading in investment, followed by South Korea, China, Japan, and even Malaysia. So notably, we have seen that Malaysia investment into Vietnam has surged within this year, and this is due to a 1.12 billion US dollar capital increase in the Yen Seo Park project in Hanoi capital regions in Vietnam. On trade, Vietnam remained resilient despite the US tariff pressures. China and South Korea are top import partners, while the US is the largest export destinations, followed by China and the EU. Key imports include computers and electronics, machinery, and raw materials. Meanwhile, exports are dominated by electronic, phone, machinery, textile, and footwear. And this showed us Vietnam is a manufacturing hub deeply integrated into the global supply chain. In the next slide, I will brief about Vietnam's major development in 2025, which is the structural and administrative reform. So the number of provinces have been reduced to almost half to streamline governance, and the share of coastal provinces rose to more than 60%, and the provinces with seaports increased to nearly 70%. And this strengthened the logistic capacity and access to global trade routes. The government structure is simplified from 3 tiers to 2, improving efficiency and reducing bureaucratic barriers. So overall, this reform expands seaport access, strengthen provincial value chains, and ultimately enhance Vietnam trade and export competitiveness. So that's all about Vietnam business environment. In the next slide, I will briefly talk about why Vietnam is considered a sourcing and production hub. Let's look at the next slide for more detail. Let me begin by highlighting why Vietnam is an increasingly attractive destination for international investors. First, in terms of minimum wage, Vietnam offers moderate labor costs compared lower than Malaysia. This cost advantage is especially appealing in labor-intensive industry like consumer goods, textile, or furniture. And most importantly, Vietnam has the biggest FTA network in Asia with 17 signed FTA, including CPTPP, RCEP, and EVFTA with the European Union. In contrast, Vietnam has yet to finalize an EU FTA, and we have seen in the past that in order to finalize an FTA, it takes a lot of time to negotiate. So this means that if an international company invests in Vietnam, it will have access to a broader market and tariff advantages when exporting to the EU market. And we will get into detail more later on. Also, political stability is a major draw. Vietnam's single-party system ensures consistency in policy, while its government is strongly pro-FDI. Finally, Vietnam allows 100% foreign ownership in most sectors and has a proven track record of attracting major investment in manufacturing. For Malaysian companies, this represents a strong opportunity to integrate into regional and global supply chains at a lower cost while gaining access to key consumer markets. In the next slide, we will understand how Vietnam rose as a sourcing and production hub or began. So since 2018, Vietnam has seen progressive growth in export. And if we look at the export landscape from both China and Vietnam, last year was the year when Vietnam gained the record high, the country highest in export, while China export is the highest, world highest. So both Vietnam and China export quite a lot to the US. And when the tariff were imposed on Chinese goods, American importers sought alternative supplier, and Vietnam quickly emerged as a leading substitute. Vietnam trade surplus with the US is even more clear after 2018, and as we can see that before President Trump's first tariff impositions, the growth rate is only 12%. But right after 2018, the growth rate is around 20%, so nearly double in terms of growth rate, of which the two most notable sectors that export to the US come from electronic and textile. However, there are risks of transshipment concerns, and the U.S. investigation rises as some Chinese goods are claimed to route through Vietnam, and this increases regulatory compliances pressure on multinational firms. And we have seen Vietnam is already taking measures to tackle this problem by strengthening its foreign industry. As a result, in the next slide, we will see how Vietnam's current situation is now a bit different from 2018. So in the next slide, you will see that compared to many other Asian countries, Vietnam export to US and the EU is higher. So this is due to reduced dependence on China. International companies have adopted the China Plus One strategy, maintaining operation in China while expanding into another country, often in Southeast Asia. So having many advantages, Vietnam has been producing a lot of intermediate goods to export due to lower costs and close proximity to China. But looking forward, this is only the short-term advantages, and the sustainable ones are Vietnam's 17 signed FTA and stable political environment. Importantly, Vietnam is no longer just a low-cost manufacturing hub. It is evolving into a more sophisticated node in the supply chain, and businesses are encouraged to build deeper industrial linkages with Vietnam to ensure sustainable growth. So in the next slide, we will see that Vietnam's appeal is reflected in the diverse portfolio of foreign investors already established in the country. For the US, companies like Intel, Amkor, and NVIDIA have invested heavily in electronics and manufacturing. From China, giants like Foxconn, BYD, and Luxshare have located productions to Vietnam to remain competitive under global tariff pressures. Japan and South Korea are also strong players with investment like in manufacturing, real estate, high-tech sector. And Singapore is also a major partner in industrial park development and logistic infrastructure. So this ecosystem demonstrates that Vietnam is already a trusted hub for multinational corporations. For Malaysia, engaging more deeply in Vietnam is not only reduce production costs, but also connect Malaysian businesses to global chains where Vietnam is already a central player. Moving on to the next slide, I will talk about the opportunity to export to US and the Europe market. We can see in the next slide about Vietnam FTA network. Vietnam is currently a signatory to 17 FTA, including significant pacts like the RCEP, CPTPP, and EVFTA. This broad network of agreements is a cornerstone of Vietnam economic policy. It serves to reduce tariff and trade barrier, and thereby enhancing market access and fostering knowledge sharing. So this strategy positions Vietnam as a central and well-connected hub in the global trading system with access to key markets across Asia, Europe, and Americas. Moving on to the next slide, we will discuss how about the opportunity to the EU market driven by the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, the EVFTA, which took effect in 2020. This agreement is a game changer as the EU is set to eliminate almost 99% of tariff on Vietnamese goods within 7-year period. So this creates significant competitive advantages for sectors such as agriculture, seafood, textile, footwear, and electronics. In addition to tariff reductions, the EVFTA promotes sustainable development, and Vietnam has committed to international labor standard and environmental protections, aligning with the value of EU consumer and make it a preferred partner for ethical trade. So looking forward, if we can actually see some potential for Malaysian companies. While the demand for halal goods in the EU market is growing, Vietnam is also having a national strategy to enter the halal good market by boosting international corporations and establishing halal certification centers. So this could mean that Malaysian companies can utilize Vietnam as a production hub, maybe first by sourcing, then outsourcing, and to really test the water first. And that if the companies are confident about Vietnam business environment, they can choose to form a subsidiary or joint venture and even set up production site in Vietnam to get the tariff advantages when exporting to the EU market. In the next slide, let's turn our attentions to the US market. While there's no comprehensive trade agreement yet, Vietnam offers strong incentive for foreign investment. One of the key advantages is a competitive corporate income tax rate of 20%, which lower than many regional peers. This makes Vietnam an attractive destination for setting up production facilities. It is also important to consider the evolving tariffs landscape. The US is proposing a 40% transshipment tariff on goods. This development underscores the importance of fostering deep industrial linkages with Vietnam. To mitigate risks and avoid these tariffs, companies should focus on real value added productions activities within the country rather than just simply using it for transshipment. To leverage these opportunities, as mentioned before, foreign investor can choose to set up production in Vietnam, form a subsidiary or joint venture, or if not confident yet, can start with sourcing and outsourcing production first. So these options really allow business to benefit from Vietnam's favorable environment while building resilient supply chains. So that's all from my end. I'm from the Azure Business Intelligence Department. In the next slide, you can see more and learn more about our company in Vietnam. So in the next slide, we will see that Design Shura Vietnam entered Vietnam in 2008 with more than 80 people working in our offices in Hanoi, Da Nang, and Ho Chi Minh City. And more than 500 customers have chosen us for services related to business intelligence. That's what I do, doing market research, accounting, legal, tax, HR, payroll, and IT. So that's all from my side. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Ms. Hua, for that comprehensive market overview that covering Vietnam's current trade and FDI landscape, the impact of the 2025 provincial mergers and governance reforms, Vietnam halal sector, as well as the opportunities for Malaysian exporters under key FTAs and the opportunity to export to EU and also US markets. Now, Ms. Hua, allow me to ask you a few questions. Okay, for question number one, may I know how Vietnam's provincial merger and streamlined governance affect export and FDI in Vietnam?
So this is a really interesting questions because we have seen that the reform is actually transforming Vietnam economic landscape. So the big picture is that this will create a bigger economy and more attractive to investor, expanding the FTA footprint by creating mega city, like for example, Bình Dương and Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, with Ho Chi Minh City that's hold nearly 30% of our registered FDI. And so we also see that the government has introduced the first ever free trade zone in Da Nang City, where free trade zones are commonly globally, with over 3,000 FIR operating worldwide. They represent a new frontier for Vietnam. So this area is where goods can be imported, stored, manufactured, and traded without typical trade barriers such as quota, tariff, or foreign exchange controls. So these zones are physically separated from the rest of the country and operate under special regulations. We also see that this will create better infrastructure and transport that will foster stronger export. So merging areas will make it easier to plan roads, ports, and airports together, and this lower transport costs and make exporting faster and cheaper. So this will also create more funding for growth. So bigger provinces can borrow and invest more in infrastructure, factories, and innovations. This helps local industry to grow and export more. So the key benefits are seen in the long term. It will create faster and simpler procedures. A new one-stop system means people only need to go to one place to handle the paperwork instead of visiting many offices. With fewer provinces and communes, planning and coordinations will also be easier. This will also create more access to transparent information on online platforms. So local offices are now linked to the National Public Service Portal, so more tasks can be done online. This will encourage both the governments and citizens to use more technology. And last but not least is more flexibility when investing in Vietnam. So removing the district level gives commune more freedom to make decisions and carry out projects that fit their needs, helping speeding up the local development. But there are also some challenges remain in the short term during the transition phase. So one of which is lack to catch up with transformation. So fast change disrupt data life and business. And before procedure can be time consuming and everything is processed at a slow pace. But now changes are fast and people can find themselves feeling a little bit overwhelmed about Vietnam's fast changing business landscape. Digital gap is also a challenge when different regions have uneven digital infrastructure. Cities are advanced and rural areas lag behind. So upgrading and unifying digital system is also very crucial. And we are seeing the government is actually doing that. Overstaffing can also be a problem. Cutting district level means reducing staff transparently, and without support, layoff can cause social problem in the short term. So we are actually seeing the government is sacrificing the challenges in the short term to ensure more benefit, more big picture in the long run. So that's all about the provincial measure.
Okay, thank you for the a brief explanation. For the second question, relate with that. Should Malaysian firms build full factories in Vietnam or keep a smaller footprint and export from Malaysia?
So this is also a really interesting questions, as we've seen that if you are new to the market and you are not really confident yet, you can actually consider both strategy because both are very valid. And choice also depends on the product, the margins, and the speed to market. If the tariff and rule of origins is matter, then a Vietnam factory that localize sufficient inputs or perform key value-added steps may unlock lower US or EU duties via FTAs. So if your product is capital light or you need central control of intellectual property or brand, consider a joint venture or contract manufacturing relationship first, and scale to own capacity once the supply base and compliance system are proven. So this stage approach, it will balance speed, risk, and capacity efficiency for businesses.
Okay. I think this will be the last question, which is all the question is related to each other actually. Finally, you know that the recent on the US tax retaliation. So how material is the US tariff and transshipment risk to exports from Vietnam? I think this is very interesting. I mean, like, especially for those who wanted to invest in Vietnam and those who already invested in Vietnam. I think this should be a very interesting topics. I mean, we're waiting for you to give some of your view on this.
Yes, I think that's the most hot topic right now, right? Because we are talking about how transshipment is gonna calculate it, how it will affect the business environment in Vietnam. Because this is definitely a game changer that you have seen. So businesses will no longer be like using Vietnam as a production hub for transshipment, like in 2018. That's what the US claimed. But it's more about fostering a deeper industrial linkages with Vietnam. So how material is the US tariff and the transshipment risk to export from Vietnam is matter and it must be managed, but it's not a showstopper. So recent US policy actions in 2025 increased scrutiny and tariff tied to suspected transshipment, which can raise costs for some production lines. And Vietnam is negotiating and adapting compliant measures. Savvy investor mitigate this by strengthening rule of origin documents, local content, traceability in supply chain, and by diversifying product routing. For example, adding higher value local processing so product can clearly meet the rule of origins. Plan for a modest short-term cost and admin uplift, a long-term market strategy remains still large in Vietnam. Yes.
Okay, thank you for those insightful responses. In essence, Vietnam's ongoing reforms are creating a more attractive and efficient environment for trade and investment. Despite some short-term adjustment challenges, while market risks such as tariff require careful management, opportunities remain strong for businesses that adapt strategically. For Malaysian company, there is no one-size-fits all approach, whether setting up in Vietnam or exporting from Malaysia, success depends on aligning the strategy with product type, market goals, and long-term growth plans. Okay, now let's turn our attention to the sourcing perspective from an international buyer based in Vietnam. Our next expert is Ms. Celine, who is the sourcing manager for the Asia Pacific region at Virtual Poland, Vietnam. Virtual is one of the premium buyer participating in INSP MIHAS 2025. This year will be Virtual Vietnam's second time participating as a buyer in the INSP MIHAS. Thank you, Ms. Celine, for your continuous support to MIHAS, our event MIHAS. Yeah. Ms. Celine brings over 20 years of expertise in sourcing, purchasing, and logistic management within the food and trading sectors, and she joined Virtual in 2024. Virtual is a global value-added solutions provider with a strong food department that specializes in sourcing products directly from producers in Asia for major international retailers. Ms. Celine will share Virtual sourcing markets and priorities, product requirements, and certifications needed for entry into Poland. Ms. Celine, the screen is yours.
Thank you for your introduction, Mr. Zaima. Hello, everyone. So I should introduce a little bit my company. Its name is Virtual in Poland. But as Mr. Zaima introduced, I'm based from Vietnam. So we will come to the first slide. In the first slide, I would like to introduce you about the history of the company. Actually, my company established from year 1993 as a non-food company. It's its first business, and for the food department, we just launching in year 2016. Until now, it's nearly about 10 years, and we have increased a lot that you can see in the next slide. So, for example, you can see we have different office around the world, but we can see the main office is headquartered in Hong Kong, where we have about more than 20 person who is doing something like admin or HR or IPO only. Besides, we have some sourcing office, like in Vietnam, we have 2 staff working remotely to in charge of Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, and also Thailand and Sri Lanka. In China, we have an office in Hangzhou, where there are more than 40 persons, but this 40 person is mainly support for the non-food. We have only 2 persons working in food sourcing, that they are in charge of China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Korea. We also have some other sourcing like outsource, like in India, but now we will move to do by ourselves. We don't do the outsource anymore. So on the product we are sourcing, we will bring to Poland. It was so in Poland. Is the main office who sell on the product we are sourcing. Yeah. So we can come to the next slide. For the sourcing the product, we have different departments in our company to offer the products to the customers. Like you can see here, we have the sales and marketing support, product selection, negotiation, quality assurance, or logistic. We have different departments to do all the things. Then we can come to the next slide. Beside the different department to offer the product that we are sourcing, we also have a supporting team to bring the product we source to Poland successfully by sourcing, or we have also the graphic team. We also have the e-commerce website with the retailer, it's being our customer. We also have legal team or analysis or logistic to do on the booking, and we ship from every country all over the world to Poland. successfully. So next, we will move to the next slide. You can see what kind of product we are looking for. Here, actually, we would like to do on the kind of product like noodles or sauce or instant dishes or sweet snack, everything that we can bring to the retailers in Poland, we are still interested on. And who are our customer? You can see in the next slides. Here you can see one of the biggest customer from our company is Bianca. Besides, we also work with other customer like Ochan or Dino or some more that we actually had the benefits from the non-food. We already entered. So now for the food, we can easily bring on the product to them. But Bianca is still our like key customer. So any product we are sourcing, we will think of Bianca at the beginnings. And till now, after about like nearly 10 years, we have more than 100 SKU, and we bring to Bianca under OEM brand. For Ocean, we also do their own brands. It means with it retailers in Poland, we work with them. They have their own requirements. Then we will come to supplier to do based on their requirements. So come to the next slide. I will tell you about the standards certificate required to bring the product into Poland to the retailers. So here you can see the lowest one, either GMP or GSP or HACCP. For these three, it's enough for us to buy. So we on way to the factory or company that had ISO or FFSC or BSC or IFS, one of the certificates to buy the product from. Because this is also not only our standards, we are working with our customer, but it's also the requirement of the retailers that we follow. We must follow to bring the product to them. So I think this is on the thing I would like to share to you on. And thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Ms. Lin, for those valuable sourcing insights. I trust the information you have just shared will be highly useful for Malaysian sellers looking to enter the Polish market. Okay,
Yes.
now let me ask some questions to Ms. Lin. Ms. Lin, what are the products that you are looking to source from Malaysia and your expectation during INSP MIHAS this year?
From Malaysia, actually, I have been doing research for after 1 year because, you know, last year I already joined MIHAS, and I see the potential products that I can get from Malaysia is some snack or confectionaries or some like beverage. And I think that I would like to get more and more interesting product to bring to Poland for my customer this time.
So I hope that this year you can do a big volume of sourcing for during INSP MIHAS this year. So we wait for the good news from you this time.
Yeah.
Okay, from the last question from me is actually which markets has Virtual sourced from, and what the challenges do you encounter when sourcing products from the Asia Pacific region?
Actually, we you know that for the food department, we already established for nearly 10 years, and we have been buying mainly from Vietnam. It's about 70%, and you know that there is a good agreement between zero impacts, like that is advantages. The 30% we are buying from China, Korea, But recently, since last year, 24, we widened to India and Thailand. And now I want to widen more and more country to bring the wood product into Poland for our customer. They are like retailer chains around Poland and also nearby countries. Yeah. And talking about the challenges, yes, we have faced a lot of things. One of that we can say about the animal ingredients in the products. So for the Europe market, especially every country in Europe, they have their own requirement also beside the general regulation. For example, for Poland, they don't accept any product that contain animal ingredient, like for example, egg or cheese or milk or honey, something like that. And for the snack from Asia's market or confectionery, they all include the animal ingredient. That's why it's limited for us to bring to Poland. So one of the things that we are working with some supplier, they are willing to do the developments. They get a replaced ingredient. They use the plant-based one to replace the animal ingredients in that one. Yeah. And the second one is about the certificate. In Asia, most factory will have like Halal or NAZSOFT, but actually it's not enough for us to buy. We need, like I just shared in the company presentation, we need one of the certificate. At least the factory must have ISO 22000. Even you have ISO 9001, it's not okay for us. It must be ISO 22000 or FLC 22000 or higher one, BSc or IFS. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Lin, for your responses and for sharing the challenges faced in the journey of sourcing from the Asia-Pacific region. We've just heard about the vibrancy of the Vietnamese market and how it has become a hub for international sourcing, with companies like Virtual Pollen sourcing from across the Asia-Pacific region, including Malaysia, for the Polish market. After hearing the market brief on Vietnam's landscape and opportunities, as well as the perspective for an international sourcing buyer, it is now time for us to hear a real-life success story from a Malaysian company. For our final speaker, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. T. Pei Shi, International Trade Manager at Spices and Seasoning Specialties Berhad. With over 18 years of experience in the export market, she leads her department in managing sales, developing business opportunities, and working closely with overseas distributors on sales and marketing strategies. Spices and Seasoning Specialties Berhad is a Malaysian producer of premium blended spices, seasonings, sauces, and other food products, serving both retail and food service industries. The company is committed to food safety, quality, and customized solutions to meet the diverse needs of international markets. Now it is my pleasure to welcome Ms. T to share her valuable experience with us.
All right, thank you Puan Zaima. Yeah, so salam sejahtera kepada tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, and good day to everyone. So my name is T. Pei Shi, but just call me T. It's like when people are asking you coffee or tea, this is the easiest way to remember my name. So I work in the company Spices and Seasoning Specialties Berhad. We are the manufacturer of instant noodles, salad dressing, and chili sauce. So it's like food items that can be many of us enjoy every day. But behind every single packet or every single noodles or every single bottles of it, there is a long journey from Malaysia to reach the consumers in other countries. So first of all, before I share my experience, I'd like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to MATRADE. So special thanks to Encik Termizi and Puan Zaima for inviting me here today and for giving me the opportunity to share my views on this meaningful platform. Right. So over the years, just for sharing, we have actually always received very strong support from MATRADE. It's like kind of the promotion that we join with the support from MATRADE is like we actually joined the overseas exhibition arranged by the MATRADE. For instance, like we participate in the Dubai, Paris, and Germany exhibitions. So other than that, we also participate in the business matching program in KLCC Malaysia, and also we obtain certain valuable prospect lists provided by the MATRADE officers around the world. So this effort really help us to connect with the right partners so that we can get the correct one. And then in fact, some of our customers we actually come directly from the MATRADE introduction. So on behalf of the company and personally, I would like to say a big thank you to MATRADE for working with us on this export journey, right? So now a little bit about myself and my company for the past 18 years that I have been actively involving in the export across the different countries. And just please allow me to share you a little bit of our company background. Yeah. Thank you. So Spices and Seasoning Specialties Sdn Bhd, we are the manufacturer of instant noodles, salad dressing, and chili sauce. And our factory is located in Selangor, Malaysia, that we have 3 in-house brands. As you can see on the screens, we have Teli, Ibumi, and Lingams. So just a little bit on our company background that we are incorporated in year 1998, that when we first started our factory setup, we start up with the instant noodle. So this is like we have been in the business for 27 years since 1998. Yep. And after that, 6 years later, which is in the year 2004, that we actually expand our business and we acquire and we do the investment on a new machine. So we get the new production line, which is the salad dressing and mayonnaise. Then after that, in year 2012, we acquire a new brand with the 100 years of history, which is the Lingams chili sauce, right? So about our factory certification for Europe country, we can see it in the next slide, please. Thank you. So this slide is showing some of our accreditation. Sorry, yeah. So first of all, we can look at we have the FFCC 22000 and HACCP, which is certified by the SGS party. And of course, as a Malaysian company and factory, then we are exporting to more than 40 countries. We are having the HACCP and GMP, also, of course, Halal. And for certain products, we have kosher, NASA certified organic, natural verification, and non-GMO project verified. Yep. So on the next slide, you will see our products. Thank you. So this is our in-house brand that we have the Ibumi instant noodles. So far we have 9 flavors so far. Yeah, but some new flavors will be launched soon. And just a quick one to view on our products that if you can see on the top left in the dark red packet, that is our star products. We call it Ibumi Goreng Asli, which is in English is original flavor. This is the dry noodle. And we also have the other star products, which you can see from the slide, which is the right bottom row, the white packet. So that is our white curry noodles. Yeah, so both items are actually selling fast, but we also have other flavors like curry kapitan, sambal udang, and prawn noodle soup. Yeah, so that's all. And we also have providing the OEM and the private label service, just to let you know, right? If we could have to go to the next slide, please. Yep. So under this in-house brand of Telly, we have Telly mayonnaise and salad dressing in the different kind of the packaging. Is that we have that in the glass bottle, as you can see on the screen, that we have that in the sachet packaging, which is for the every single usage. Is that when we go out for lunch, that probably want to make a salad, and we can take one sachet, open it, and consume it. Yeah. And we also have the salad dressing in the squeeze bottle and also in the pouch. And that's a big one. Yeah. For the brew tubs, which is in the 3 liter for the food service industry. Yeah. So yeah, let's look at the next slide, and that will be our last slide for today. Yeah. So this is the Lingam chili sauce that we are having that in the different flavors. This Lingam chili sauce is our in-house brand that which has over the 100 years a delicious heritage. This is a very our star products and our star brands as well. Right. So this Lingam chili sauce is in the different flavors that we have the original, which is like a little bit sweet and mild. It's not that spicy. Yeah, we also have the extra hot. That is the truly hot, and it's like made by the bird's eye chili, which we call chili body. Yeah. So we also have other flavor like ginger and garlic. Yes, and also some bigger, but sorry, it's not in this slide. It's like other bigger size, like 12 kilo. That one is for the food service. Yeah. So thank you very much. Yes, so this is our contact number, and do feel free to contact me if you have any inquiry, and I'll be very happy, more than happy to assist accordingly.
Thank you, Miss T. Miss T,
Yes.
will just now you mentioned about what are the product produced by the company and among other brands, whether you have your own brand or you do OEM for the company. But also, can you share about some of the experience entering into European market?
Yeah. So when we first talking about the European market, that what's the first thing in our mind, right? To confirm my understanding, actually, I asked ChatGPT how consumer in general view on the European products, and the answer was high quality and safety standard. Yeah, I think that this is very, very true, right? So before the exporters enter onto the European market, it's very, very important to check the rules and the regulation to ensure the compliance with the requirement of the local authorities, right? For instance, like in the food industry, this is they have the very strict health rules and the strong concern on the ingredients of the products. Just work closely with your importer or the local distributor, because they are the one who understand the local system, how it works, and all those requirements. This is what we always do, right? We actually have to understand sometimes it could take a long process, because the counter checking on the ingredients and paperwork and the approval, those everything can take time, up to a few weeks perhaps, but this is part of the export journey. Just be patient, and a compliance is a must, right? So in short, European products are trusted because of their quality and safety. If the exporters, like Malaysian manufacturers, that we wish to succeed in that market, they must respect this standard and be prepared to follow the process step by step, patiently and carefully. Yeah. And beside the quality, European consumers also place more emphasis on the health and certification, right? Consumers in Europe, they actually tend to be, they read the labels very carefully. For example, like when it comes to the food products, that they will check the ingredients, allergens, any other additive, right? So even details like packaging material, which are the things that the consumers are very concerned and look at it closely. So when we first started exporting to Europe, it's like we just think, okay, just translate the ingredients and we print the label and done. Simple, right? But actually, this is not that. Our distributor in the France, they told us that we need French. And Germany said, oh, they need German. And the Netherlands wanted Dutch language. And because we also export and entering into the Switzerland, that we added Italian. So lastly, we have the Spanish as well. So yeah, of course, English is the base. So guess what? Now we have total of 6 languages on the single bottle of the chili sauce and a single packet of the noodle itself, right? So at first we worried that it's just like it looks a little bit crowded because too many languages, but just surprisingly. And the good things is when the shoppers then in the Europe, when they see it on the shelf, they take and they read, they will think that, oh, the sauce and the product must be very international, right? So this can become a selling point that the labeling could be part of the brand storytelling, right? It's showing that diversify and the trust and the accessibility across the bottle and the taste of the heritage itself. So yeah. Another memorable moment that I would like to share was our first shipment to Germany. That after a long journey from the Parkland, Malaysia to Germany, when our container arrived in Hamburg, our container was whole by the custom officer. So guess what? The officer insists that in Germany, that the same product should fall under using a different HS code clarification. So at that time, for that particular shipment and the particular product that we had used the HS code that worked perfectly fine and good every time in the France and the Netherlands, right? So yeah, it was a painful experience. Why? Because the shipment was late and customers just like waiting for it anxiously. So we have to resubmit certain documents. So for the goods to clear the customs. So it actually reminded us of a lesson of export. It's like even within the EU single market that not every countries interpret rules exactly the same way, right? So from the day I realized it's like not only people that like we need the passport when we're traveling overseas, but the chili sauce or the noodle and any products, they have the passport problems as well, right? So from that on, we become more careful and we learn when shipping to Europe, planning is everything. Everything we will pre-check on the documents and requirements and every single little things. So why? Because the shipping lead time itself can be quite long comparing to we ship to other Asian countries. It's like it could take like several weeks at sometimes because of the vessel delay and some custom clearance procedures and some unexpected issues like checking or random checking by customs. And this is the risk that, so the risk will become very real. So the exporter, we must plan and just not only ship on time, but to ensure the goods arrive on time for the market, so for the distributor and for your consumers, right? Thank you.
But you also besides Europe, you also have entered Vietnam market, is it before?
Yes, we also have entered the Vietnam market. It's like yeah, we ship to the Vietnam, but this is under the private label. As you can see that we are offering the OEM and the private label as well. Oh yeah, this is a very interesting contrast because like the food can be universal, that meaning everyone need to eat. But the journey that we export the food products to Vietnam and to Europe could be very, very different. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Misty, for your inspiring sharing on the experience of entering and growing in the European market. Your presentation has given a picture of challenges faced and the strategies applied and opportunities that can be unlocked when Malaysian companies take a bold steps into new markets. We truly appreciate the practical lessons and inspiration you have provided, which I'm sure it will be useful for many of our exporters looking to expand globally. Missy, allow me to ask you a couple questions. So maybe you can just like wrap up these two questions into one answer, which is Malaysian products sometimes priced higher compared to local brand in markets such as Vietnam or Europe. In your view, why should customer be willing to pay more? This is actually what we got like, always a feedback from the buyer when they join our NSP. And also question number 2 is how important is sustainable packaging when it comes to meeting the expectation of consumers and buyers in the EU market? I think this is one of the challenges for our product to penetrate EU market. So Misty, maybe you can answer these two questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Zaima. And yeah, I think these quite fair questions, right? Talking about the first questions that why consumers should pay higher or willing to pay more, there is we often get this question from the both importers, means our distributors, and also the end consumers. So our pricing actually reflect two important things is quality and authentic. Yeah. For example, it's like lingam chili sauce that we use 100% pure and natural ingredients, which are made by the red chili, vinegar, salt, and sugar. There's like no preservative, no thickeners, no artificial coloring, and no additional additive, right? So as in the Europe, we always emphasize authentic. It's like the taste of Malaysia since year 1908. Wow, this is a very long history, right? So this could be something that consumer are willing to pay for the extra for, and especially when they are looking for the genuine international products, right? So yeah, probably we might not be the cheapest on the shelf, but we compete by offering a unique taste and the quality just to justify for the value that the consumers are paying. Yeah, I hope that I answering the first questions. Right. So for the second questions that just now I jot down is talking about the sustainable packaging. That in fact this is a very good questions, and this is very important, you see, because sustainable packaging is extremely important in the EU market today, right? For the European consumers, they are also very conscious about the environment, very, very conscious. Right. So certain consumers in Europe, they only make the purchasing decision based on how eco-friendly a product is packaged. It's like, in fact, a lot of the retailers, from what I understand, in Europe, they already made the public commitment to sustainability. Yeah. So it's like they wish to reduce the plastic wastage, like they also wish to increase the recycling and also move forward to a circular economy. Yeah, this is what the European is moving forward to. And this means if we want to work with them, our packaging must meet their standard as well. It's like while the packaging compliance is very important, it's the basic requirement, I would say that. But sustainability is often the factor that it makes the product stand out So I remember that we even have been asking by the European importers on the material of every single part of the packaging from us. It's like from the material of the carton box to the glass bottle itself, and even the bottle cap and the material of the label sticker. Yeah, so we declare everything. So if let's say that we can use the eco-friendly packaging, and Malaysian exporter can clearly state it on the label. So mention the packaging is like reusable and biodegradable and recyclable, right? So this is actually can strengthen our brand image and build the consumer trust. So which means it also build your own brand reputation in the long run as well, right? This is very important, yeah. So in a nutshell, that sustainable packaging is not just a trend, because most of the time we might think that this is a trend, but in fact, this is actually one of the key requirements to gain the acceptance in the European market, right? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. T, for sharing your thought and experience. I'm sure many of our exporters here can relate to that. And glad to hear that you are really conquer the European market. And I hope that in future we can see more of your product again, like revisit Vietnam market, which we can work together to make this happen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come to the conclusion of today's Meet Expert session. We have gained valuable insights into Vietnam's evolving business and trade landscape, explored sourcing opportunities and buyer requirements for the Polish market, and heard an inspiring success story from a Malaysian exporter who has successfully ventured into not only Vietnam or ASEAN market, also to European market. Together, these perspectives have provided us with a comprehensive view of how Vietnam serves not only as a growing market, but also as a strategic hub for international sourcing, and how Malaysian companies can position themselves to capture opportunities in the halal economy globally. On behalf of MATRADE, I would like to sincerely thank all of our speakers for their thoughtful sharing, and all of you in the audience for your participation and engagement. Before we end, I would also like to highlight that MATRADE Ho Chi Minh City is always ready to assist Malaysian companies seeking further information or support on doing business in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. We look forward to working with you in expanding your presence across this dynamic region. Terima kasih, thank you, Sing Kamen, and enjoy the rest of MIHAS 2025.